Thank you for joining us at Grateful Gratitude with LoLo and Lexie. We are practicing gratitude girls that strive every day to recognize and celebrate our blessings. We are a mother and daughter that practice gratitude every day and put God in the center of our life. The only way to live a blessed and happy life is to be grateful. May you feel God's love and blessing each and every day.
All right, it's time for another episode of Grateful Gratitude with LoLo and Lexie, and I've got them in our Jaeger office studios here, and we're going to talk about gratitude in advance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great.
Yeah, so essentially, it's just being grateful in advance before you have something, which sounds kind of interesting. I never really understood this topic until a couple years ago, but essentially, this is kind of like dream planning or visualizing also. Like, I know when I was going through my anxiety struggles and I had intrusive thoughts just hitting my head, I would make myself start visualizing the life I wanted, and it was simple things, just being able to get out of bed and drive my car and having a happy baby and, you know, things like that. And so I visualized it in my head so that I could create those patterns in my brain to start thinking more positively instead of what else was going on. And I would essentially say my prayers or just be grateful and say, you know, I'm glad for this happy family I have. I'm blessed and I'm happy that I can drive my car today, you know, whatever it is. And those thoughts overtook my negativity. So I used that, being grateful in advance, actually as a tool in my anxiety when I was having intrusive thoughts, to the point that, that's all that was going through my head was intrusive thoughts. So I had to figure out, it was like a roadblock, a mental block to try to shift that. And this was one of the tools I used.
Yeah, and I think I do it a little bit different because I try and live in the present.
Right.
And by living in the present, I think, where do I want to be in 5 years or 10 years? And, you know, what blessings am I going to have then? And I do agree with you. I do think visualization is a huge part of that. But a lot of times I'll just say a prayer and I will just thank God for whatever He's bringing my way.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what His plan is for the rest of my life. I know what He's planned for me for right now that I'm doing. But I just say thank you. You know, whether it's if I'm going to have a health crisis, but He's going to get me through it or whatever, I just try and be grateful for whatever is coming my way. And I think you and I have talked about that before in another podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it helps you realize when you do get those blessings too. You're like, oh, this is what I was being grateful for, essentially. You know what I mean? I'm bringing the blessings to me by doing that.
It's also a whole lot easier if you have the faith. And, you know, did a Bible study this morning, as a matter of fact. And one of the guys in the group is an older guy, and he showed us, and I've seen this before, but in the back of his Bible at the very end, he'd written on the last page, "We win," meaning that, hey, no matter what happens at the end, I know that I'm going to win.
That's awesome.
And I've heard this example. I wish it was my own, but it's not. That if you are a sports fan, and a lot of people can't watch the games that they know the outcomes of, like they record the game, and so when someone and I see guys do this all the time, and it's always bothered me because guys will record a game and they'll say, "Don't tell me the score, don't tell me the score. I don't want to know."
Right. Well,
actually, my pastor Prestonwood tells the story this way: that he was the president of the Southern Baptist Convention, which meant he did a lot of traveling, and a lot of his traveling was on Sundays. He's a big Cowboy fan, and this is back in the day of VCRs and maybe the beginning of DVRs, and so he would record the Cowboy game. And he'd want to watch it when he got home, like a lot of men, right? A lot of people.
Right.
But you'd always have the pilot on the plane that wanted to break the news to you. Hey, the Cowboys won. And he would get on the plane and he would tell the flight attendants, please, if you can let the pilot know, don't tell us the score of the Cowboy game. And he said that would work maybe 2/3 of the time. But what he realized was the 1/3 of the time that he heard the score of the game before he watched the game, he said, if I knew the Cowboys won at the end, it was so much easier to watch the game because he said Emmett would fumble the ball, and if I didn't know the outcome of the game, I'd be so mad at Emmett and I'd be all freaking out. But if I know that at the end the Cowboys win the game 35-21, when he fumbles, I'm like, oh, okay, it's just bumping the road.
Yeah.
And that's
a really good way to put it.
The way you look at this at the end of the Bible, we win.
Absolutely.
So any problems you have right now, if you have that kind of faith, hey, it's just a bump in the road. At the end, I know I'm going to win.
Exactly.
Well, and I think if people do that, kind of do it in reverse. So take yourself back 10 years ago and where you were.
Exactly.
And look where you are now. And you didn't realize the things that were going to come your way. But if you sit there at whatever age you would have been and, thought, where am I going with my life? What's happening? And now we can't predict the future, but we can sure be grateful for what's coming to us.
Yes.
And you can handle those road bumps way easier when you know it's just a bump in the road, like you said.
It's just like when I was married to Lexie's dad, right? And I was getting divorced. I had no idea that God was going to put Wes in my life. Mm-hmm. Or, when I got...
we did big things. And when you look back, it's like, dang, how did we get this? How did we get this lifestyle that we now have? And that's why I think journaling is so important, so you can look back on it and see.
And that's huge, too, because if you're having a down day and you can go back and look at a gratitude journal or something that you've been so grateful for on another day, and you don't want to lose track of that. And everybody needs to know that there's good things coming to them.
Right.
And, we're all going to have our ups and downs, and we're going to have different seasons that we're going to need to come through, but it's all your attitude.
Absolutely.
And if you find something good, and no matter what it is, your life is so much more fulfilled.
It's funny you say that because I started watching this new show with Levi, and it's called Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, and it's based off of, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Uh-huh. And, there was, a song, and it said, if something doesn't go your way, don't be sad. Find something to make it good. And they said it the whole hour of the show, and I just found myself the rest of the day when Ty got home and things like that, and the dogs were barking or digging or something like that, I was like, okay, when something doesn't go your way, find something to make it good. And I kept doing it, and I was like, that is so awesome, because it's amazing. So true. It so changes how you deal with things. But
and it is true. And of course we've talked how to be grateful and what gratitude is, but the negativity just falls away when you appreciate.
Yeah.
And if you realize what people are living in other countries and, the things that we
all
have.
Perspective.
Absolutely. And, I don't know how many times a day I just look up and say, thank you, because I had an order go right that delivered and I got paid for. I mean, it's something that I don't ever want to take for granted.
And on Instagram today, our little quote of the day, I saw this last night when we were watching, what was it?
Is it another kids show?
No, it was on, it's HBO, it's Hard Knocks, the football, about the Browns. Oh, we watch every year. And, but Baker's there and we're from OU, so that's a big, big deal. But in their locker room, it says, impossible or I'm possible. And it's spelled the exact way. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. So that's what I used for today for our Instagram. Because I was like, that was just motivation for me.
And the other thing, it's blown up. I mean, so many people have been
seen it.
Yeah, seen it. And that's what is so important to Lexie and myself is every day. If someone sees something and you brighten their day, we're doing our job. And that's all we want.
One person.
That's all we want. Yeah. And because we do that and we see that, we get such gratification from it. Oh, good. I'm glad that, and then...
It's working. We're helping.
And I feel the same way when I see something that's touched me and I can love it or put a comment, so...
But if you need... Our Facebook page is great for those kind of quotes of the day, and they're more Bible... Yeah, they're Bible quotes. So go follow us there. And then also on Instagram, we just have, motivation quotes every day. But we also have daily affirmations that we are going to post on there. And also you can see kind of behind the scenes on what we do every day, like podcasts and things like that.
When we did the Alzheimer's walk and all the things that we're doing socially.
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you something about those daily affirmations, see if you guys agree? Is that it doesn't do you anywhere near the good to just read those affirmations.
No, you've got
to say them.
Say them.
And
you've got to believe them. You've got to feel them.
Yep.
And something that you just touched on with the journaling and not dwelling in the past, but learning from your past. If you really honestly think, and this is where you were going, so I hate to repeat it, but it's just so true, that when you look at your past and you look at the problems you had, and fast forward 10 years, like you just said, and you realize, okay, how really trivial a lot of those problems were, and you think about how you overreacted at the time, and now you look back and think, well, it really wasn't that big of a deal.
Self-reflection, yeah.
Okay, well, learn from that.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard for a lot of people to do as well, because they take every problem they have, and you're going to have problems.
Right.
What you can't do is you can't let those problems get in the way. And I think a lot of people, and I think we all know these people, that they have a problem it's a legitimate problem, but the way they deal with it causes other problems.
What do you always say?
Well, I always say make sure you respond and don't react.
Yes.
That's the biggest one
Because if you can learn the difference between reacting and responding, you will change your life.
And it'll help you. It'll help your blood pressure, your heart rate. I mean, it's just better for you.
We need to do a podcast on that.
Yeah, but also I live by, especially with my anxiety and OCD, like when things are bothering me and it's so tedious and tiny, I just ask myself, I'm like, is this going to matter in 5 years? Whatever I decide to do. Or how, you know what I mean? Is it going to matter? No.
I'm laughing because that would bug the people that I hung out with in college. They hated me because I was the one that...
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't want someone to tell me that, but I just have to tell myself that.
I was the one, I was always in some form of leadership roles, like in the fraternity and different organizations. And I was always the one in the room when the executive committee was freaking out about, okay, look, we got to figure out what kind of beer we're going to have at camp out. It's the biggest problem in the world. And I'm like... You know what? In 10 years from now, none of this is going to matter. And it didn't matter what the problem that the committee was trying to figure out. I was always the one in the room saying, guys,
bring it down.
This doesn't matter.
Well, and I think a lot of that comes with maturity, too. But
I work on that all the time.
A lot of that stuff didn't matter in 10 minutes or 10 days.
Yeah.
No, exactly. That's how you see it.
And I went about it the wrong way. You don't want to tell people who are consumed with a problem that their problem doesn't matter. You need to have a little bit better bedside manner than just completely diminishing their thoughts. But
don't say it for the whole problem, but maybe like a tiny situation they're in or something like that. You can use it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And you already told us how we can find Facebook,
Instagram, YouTube, Grateful Gratitude. Facebook is Grateful Gratitude, our Facebook page. Our Instagram's Grateful Gratitude 11. Our podcast, You're Here. And then the blog is gratefulgratitude.net.
All right.
Am I missing anything? No.
Nope.
Cool.
Good. Talk to you next time.